Into this now, 28 Bangladeshi nationals have been intercepted on arrival at the OR Tambo International Airport. According to the Border Management Authority, the Bangladeshis were intercepted on Saturday evening by immigration officials during an intelligence-driven operation on a flight from Dubai. They were found to be in possession of fraudulent visas, and one of them did not have a visa at all. The BMA says the travelers were in contravention of the South African Immigration Act by possessing fraudulent travel documents. Speak now to immigration expert Dr Vusumuzi Sibanda on this question. Good to have you with us, Doc, and thank you very much for your time. We are, of course, receiving this recent update. Is this, in a sense, again, a confirmation that the migration challenge in South Africa is in SADC, yes, but it is a global challenge of migration that has got to do with, I suppose, how we are managing the border environment?
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers. Yes, thank you very much. Look, this is indeed a confirmation that migration is a problem that is not only, I think, peculiar, to Africa. I mean, we can see quite a number of people to South Africa, just as we have known that people that are coming, into Europe, without proper documentation, because the major push factors being, of course, political instability, starvation, or the economy where people are trying to look for greener pastures. So South Africa has been standing out, as one of those attractions, internationally or globally. And you've got people from the richest coming to South Africa because of the, environment, the political stability as perceived, and of course the economics, as well as, even those that are also poor. So some come specifically to invest, whilst others come to try and find employment. I mean, of course, we've got that niche of people that, are trying maybe to hide or run away from criminal activities, but that's not the greater number.
So the BMA is saying there needs to be tighter detection systems. One would think, coming from Dubai, they would have a rather quite advanced system of being able to detect fraudulent visas, or at least the verification of visa legitimacy. Or is there something else at play?
Well, look, I think the issue really is the question that how far can people detect visas from other countries insofar as, the legitimacy of those visas are. So what you're looking at is basically the fact that, when it comes to, whether that visa has become, legitimate or not, you can find that the visa is a true replica of what visas are like. It might just be an issue that that visa, in order for someone to detect that it is fraudulent, it is either not entered into the South African system to the extent that when one punches, that visa at the port of entry, then it does not come out in the system, or it is a duplicate of a visa that has been issued. It comes out, but it may come up with different, details. So it's not something that I think is just an easy, 1, 2, 3, you can easily pick it. That is why people that, because some of these things also involve the immigration officials, where they work in collusion with these agents to issue some of these visas, to the extent that some could actually be documents that are issued from the department, but which are not issued through the proper channels, to the extent that it could be, books or rolls or series that are missing in the system.
How seriously do we take the bilateral engagements that have got to do with these security issues?
Well, I think that's where the big problem really is, in that, these engagements, especially insofar as, detecting these fraudulent documents, which require all countries involved to have systems that are somehow integrated to such an extent that, which I think might be slightly difficult, because obviously, for a visa to appear, it comes because it has been fed into a system. If it hasn't been fed in any other country, it will only come out because it was issued by South Africa that have scanned it through their system. And therefore, it will be difficult for a country, for example, like Dubai or anywhere else, to pick that, because it is yet, unless they've fed it in their system and, it has been confirmed. So these bilateral agreements, they've got, they are not foolproof, in the sense that even if these agreements are there, but they can only be, used in terms of enforcement when people have been detected to be, using fraudulent documents, but not before that.
So the commissioner, of course, commending the work of those who intercepted this. It's an intelligence-led operation. Does this, in a sense, represent a BMA that is beginning to take shape?
Look, yes. I mean, I think we must agree that there are officials that are doing a splendid job, at the port of entries. And there are those, of course, that might not be doing such a splendid work, who will, even if they detected, these anomalies, they might, decide, for example, that, look, they're going to take money and let people slip into the country, which gives the bigger problem of how people will have entered into the country, because they'll have entered using, these particular documentations or visas that are fraudulent. But these that are obviously detecting these things, you will agree with me that for quite, a long period of time, we have had, incidents where people get, caught. And for example, if you look at this is a big contingency that would have been very difficult to really, fail to pick that up. And so it could be anything that it shows that the BMA is also, doing its work. But I mean, I don't think that we can obviously read a lot into it, because we still have got a big problem in as far as, that enforcement is concerned.
So you think that is something that can be dealt with within a legal framework? I mean, there's something that they need to do, because I think they're changing laws and so on and so forth. There are lots of things that Home Affairs is doing. But that particular challenge of officials that would let a fraudulent visa pass, and is that something that we could still address within a legal framework?
Definitely, that is, if the legal framework, or for example, the enforcement part of it is done appropriately, you'd realize that these issues of these, of the porousness would obviously be overcome, because people, get arrested, once there is issues of fraud that are involved, and people get sentenced, for, longer periods of time, because now it is no longer just an issue, of documents, that are not inappropriate, but it's an issue of corruption, where people now are basically, are buying documents, working in collusion. So it will be appearing as some form of organized crime. So that issue of enforcement, the laws, they even don't need to be changed. You will agree with me that there are adequate laws, especially in terms of dealing with people that are coming, out unlawfully. But the problem is the enforcement.
The broader concern, of course, is that of dealing with illegal documents. These are visas and so on and so forth. How do you think that could be certainly approached?
Well, look, one of the issues that need to happen is that in the space of documentation, one of the problems that South Africa is currently facing is the issue of agents. A lot of people even get these documents without knowing that the documents are fraudulent. That is why when you look at a lot of the cases that Home Affairs goes on to lose, in court, you find that, a person has been issued a document, through an agent. They've paid very big money, because the agents go out there and they advertise that, we're going to assist you with your visa documentation to reside in South Africa. They find whatever documentation with whoever that they work with at the department and issue out these visas that in the bulk of the cases, one, they are not compliant. Two, for example, if you look at the general work visa, there are people that are still being issued general work visas in South Africa when those visas were outlawed in as far back as 2014. So when you look at that visa, prima facie, that that visa is unlawful, because it is no longer, a valid visa in South Africa that is issued by the country, except for critical skills. But these agents, because they want to keep getting money, they have got their connections at the department that they are working with, in order to collude and issue these visas, and these visas which are already invalid. And they will even find any documents to try falsify the documents without the knowledge of the applicant, so that at least they've got a high success rate in issuing those visas. And a lot of innocent people will pay lots of money and find themselves arrested for carrying, a fraudulent visa. That's where the big problem is. The issue of dealing with agents that are working to issue visas. It needs to be clamped down. I mean, at some stage, the department, I think, was trying to work, and there was, I think it was Section 46 of the Immigration Act or so, which, was then repealed, which dealt with to regulate, these immigration officials. Now, that environment is not regulated, and people approach these people, and they have no protection at all. They are all over the VFS, and nobody controls them, and that is a big problem.
Do we still need stricter visa requirements? I mean, one of the things that they've done in Canada, certainly to limit the flows of undocumented people, is to have a highly regulated immigration system, including some of the world's strictest visitor visa requirements.
I think the restrictions, I mean, and the laws really, I mean, that South Africa has in as far as, controlling immigration are adequate. The problem is not with the laws. The problem is with the people that are working deliberately to defraud the system in that one, they are working in collusion to issue documents that are no longer allowed. And they are making it also, in some cases, they're actually making it difficult for people to approach the system on their own without the assistance of these, agents. If people could easily approach VFS and get all the information that they need, or approach the Department of Home Affairs and get all the information that they need, and Home Affairs processes these visas within the stipulated period of time. One of the issues which is a big problem is people apply for visas. Compare this with Canada. One applies for an ordinary visa, it takes 2, 3, 5 years without it being issued. And then an agent comes and says, no, I will push, I've got connections inside, pay me this much money, I'll speak to people so that the visa is issued in a shorter space of time. Whereas when you look at the turnaround time in countries that seem to have a success in managing this, 2, 3 weeks or 4 weeks at most, the visas are out. So there are bottlenecks that appear to be deliberately created. And because of these bottlenecks, people are then forced into a channel where they have to rely on these people that claim to have access. And ultimately, then we've got this corruption that starts, blossoming.
Yeah. Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on in your intervention.